Hey guys, for some reason this is not video. That thing is not. Is the camera on?
Yep, the camera's on. This is the correct USB, HDMI.
Check 1 2.
It's looking for you right now. The parrot. Are you gonna use the screen today?
That screen.
That screen.
Hey guys, welcome. We're going to get started here in just 1 second. Having a little bit of a issue with this video and audio. Why is this thing not recognizing it? There we go. USB is working. I lost this. For some reason, the video is not working. Then. Was. The video one is the only one that's not working. Hey guys, we're going to get started here in 1 second. We're just trying to figure out why the video is giving us a little bit of a issue over here. Because today we're going to be talking about how do you build a credit line, and we're having a little bit of an issue with our video thing.
You think that died again?
No, I don't think so.
There's really no other. Anything that you could click?
Try this one.
Thank you.
Okay, now we got it.
Awesome.
Okay. Hey guys, so today we're talking specifically about the idea today was to talk about it's Freedom Fridays, and today specifically we're talking about kind of scaling up, which was 0 to 12 million in terms of how do you build a line, meaning a line of credit or a commercial line, so that you can basically start scaling your business to the next level. So I want to kind of go through that, and this is not quite as complicated as people think. So I want to kind of explain how that is. I'm going to kind of take an example so the case study that I'm going through happens to be somebody from Mastery, and that is Nancy, and Nancy and Miss Christine. So these two ladies, how did they build this up? And why is this really important? The reason why this is really important in terms of why does a credit line matter? So let's first explain, if you want to really buy a lot of real estate, right? Either you have to have a money tree, which most people don't have, which is by money tree, I mean is you had parents that were independently wealthy and had a lot of money. Or you got to figure out, how do I start with very small, and how do I gradually stack that, and how do I build it? So today we're going to talk about the practicality of how it's built. Now, I just want to explain this to you, that to go from 0 to a $12 million line, right? It's taken them about 3.5, 4 years, right? But in that period of time, they've done 30, 40, 50 transactions as they have built this particular credit line. So just please understand that it's going to take a little bit of time, but at the end of it, you're going to have huge results. Like in their case, between Christine and between Miss Nancy, they have about 30 or 40 rental properties that they own, if not a little bit more, and they have monthly $25,000 or so in rental income, cash flow income, right? After expenses that comes in every single month. So it's important to realize that why are we doing something? The reason why we're looking at this is because this is a way that you can, even if you're starting with almost nothing, then you can build that up. So I want to kind of go through exactly what happened, right? So in this case, what happened was that Miss Nancy did not have a lot of money reserves, right? And so what do you need for a real estate deal? Well, you need money from somebody, be it a bank, be it a lender, be it a private money lender. The money has to come from somebody, or the seller is giving you a, even if it's a subject to deal, whatever the case is, but that money is coming from somewhere in the deal, right? Somebody's credit on most of the deals is going to be on the line, unless you're just paying all cash or it's completely financed, but then some credit somewhere is involved, right? And then you need a deal, obviously, right? Which is the main thing in that. You need a property, and then you need somebody who's going to go put it all together. So you need 4 pieces for every real estate transaction. Now, the great part about that is that they don't have to be all your own pieces, right? Though that's the beauty of real estate is, I call it the greatest equalizer ever. The reason is because if you have the ability to learn how to find a property, the rest of the pieces can be filled in. So I want to kind of talk you through their first little property, and then we'll talk about how did they start building a line of credit, and how did they go from literally 0 line of credit to a 12 million line of credit. So, and it's important to understand, whenever we talk about a line of credit for real estate, we're not talking about how did they open an LLC, and then how did they go get a bunch of credit cards under that LLC, and then they took and converted that credit card money, they ran it through and put it in their bank account, because a lot of times people get that confused. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is, how did they set up a line with commercial lenders starting with 0, and how do they have the ability today to be able to borrow up to 10 or 12 million dollars worth of real estate loans, right, for flips at a time. I mean, that's a huge amount, right? And how was that done? So, because that's the right way to go about it. So having said that, let's look at kind of what we first will talk about, what were the missing pieces, and then what were the pieces that Miss Nancy and Christine had to partner for. So Miss Nancy at the time didn't have a lot of reserves. So when it comes to money, I'm going to put an X by it. When it comes to credit, I'm going to put a tick mark by it, meaning her credit was okay. When it comes to ability to find a deal, she came to Mastery, so she learned exactly how to find a deal, and somebody, the work or headache, whatever you want to call it, she was willing to do all of those, right? So what was she missing? She was missing a little bit of money that she needed to be able to do the deal. So what did Miss Christine have? So Miss Christine, who's another person from Mastery, she had a little bit of money. Not a whole lot, but she had a little bit of money. And so what these 2 ladies did is they kind of partnered up to be able to do their first deal. And for them, what was important early on was they both needed to do a few flips. And they needed to do a few flips because they wanted to set up a little bit of reserves. So what they ended up doing was this, that they said, hey, we're going to partner up on these deals. We're going to find a property. Miss Nancy was going to find the property, and then they were going to share the workload in terms of going and following up a little bit on Miss Nancy was going to do majority of it, and I'm going to make a small W, the workload, right? That Miss Christine was going to do the rest. Right? This is early on in the process, but majority of this side of it, meaning finding the deal, the working part of it, meaning dealing with all the headaches. And now Miss Christine's credit was also pretty decent, right? So, but at the time, Miss Christine didn't know how to find properties necessarily. So what they did is they kind of partnered up on this thing, and they said, hey, listen, what we're going to do is we're going to do a few flips, right? So their formula was, typically we always teach 2 flips, 1 rental, 2 flips, 1 rental, 2 flips, 1 rental, right? So you're flipping properties, you're earning income from it, and then you build a rental property. Then income, rental property, income, rental property. And then at some point, once you get to enough rentals, now you switch it, which is now you do 1 flip and 2 rentals, 1 flip and 2 rentals. Then you do 1 flip, 3 rentals, then 4 rentals for each flip that you do. So for them, what they decided was that they were going to have to do 2 or 3 flips to be able to help them build up a little bit of reserves. Now, I know what you're thinking. If you're watching this, you're like, okay, Andrew, that's all well and good. But if I don't have the money initially, right, or if I have a business partner that may not have the funds, when you partner with somebody, you always have to look for people that have the pieces that you're missing, right? So in this case, Miss Nancy, when she came to Mastery, so a lot of times what people will do is one broke person and that has no clue is going to find another broke person that has no clue, and they become best of buddies, right? Well, right? How is that going to help you, right? It doesn't. If you're really good at math, then find somebody who's good at science. But if 2 people who all basically, if you're broke and another person is broke, 2 broke people doesn't mean that's going to end up in success. What you want to do is you want to partner with somebody that has the things that you are missing. That's called smart when it comes to business, right? So in this case, the situation was Miss Christine had a little bit of money. But for their first flip, what they decided was that they were going to do 2 flips, as I said, and they were going to do a 1 rental. 2 flips, 1 rental, right? This sort of a thing. They ended up actually doing 3 in reality. I should correct that. They ended up doing 3 flips. So what they did was for their first deal, right? They didn't have any line of credit. They didn't have any reserves to show. So how did they do their first deal? So they did their first deal. They needed about $80,000 for purchase of the property, and they needed about $40,000. Now, it's not exactly 40. I'm making it 40 because I don't want to put up an odd figure, harder to understand. So they needed about $40,000 for rehab. So where did they get this money? Well, they could have gone to a commercial lender, and the commercial lender would have said, hey, you got to bring 10% of this amount to the closing, right? Now, they didn't have a lot of reserves to begin with, right? Neither between Christine and between Miss Nancy. Miss Christine had a little bit more, but not quite as much. So they said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to borrow the money from a private lender, right? Private money lender within Mastery. So they borrowed this money from them, the entire $120,000. When they did their first flip, they made about $45,000 between the 2 ladies, right? So now they have $45,000. Now, you may say, but Andrew, they made $45,000. It's not like but they may have needed some of that money to live on, right? Once the flip was done. But what they did is they took this $45,000 and they deposited in an account. Now they have $45,000 here, right? And they did the first one with a private money lender. Now, what Miss Christine did was she brought in a little bit of money, and she put a little bit of money. She showed it in another account, about another $55,000 or $60,000 that she had. She showed that little bit of money. They're not using it, right? Mind you, this is important to know. They're not using that money. She just showed that she had some reserves, right? And so now between the 2 of them, what happens is this, and this is how you start building this line. Between these 2, what happened is this is the profit that they earned from a flip. This is the amount of money that Miss Christine had saved up. Now, Miss Christine is in her 70s, right? When she started doing her first flip, she was 74 or something like that. Think about this, right? Most people at 74, they're like, oh my God, we're wrapping up, right? She was doing her first flip with Miss Nancy. So now together, they have $100,000 between the two of them to be able to show. Against this, right? Against this money, the line that they got initially, because they had a little bit of money, they didn't have a lot of money. The first line that they got was about a $400,000 line, right? 400K line. So what that means is that, hey, if you have within a flip that you did, within a little bit of reserves that Miss Christine had, right, we'll give you a 400K line, right? So they're like, oh, wow. So now what happens? Now what they do is go rinse and repeat it, right? So the deal number one, and I'm going to kind of show you guys the stages. This one was done with private money. That's where they got the money from, and they made $45,000. Now, second round, right? What do? You've done something once, it's worked. So they go back to the same private money lender, and they're like, hey, thank you so much. You lent us the money the first time. How about we do deal number two? They're like, sure, you guys are reliable people. You pay on time. You do a good job with your properties. Absolutely, right? So they again do another deal where they borrow money with private money lender, and they're doing their second deal, right? At the same time, now guess what they have? They have a line of 400,000 that they got, and they had another 100,000 between the two of them. So they were like, we're going to keep some money in reserves, but we can now do another couple properties. So they're doing two properties with a commercial loan, because now they're now the amount of credit that they can borrow is 400,000 from there. So they do two deals. So on the deal that they did with private money, they made about $33,000. And then they did another two deals here where they made close to about $80,000 from two more deals. So now guess what happens, right? Now they can take this 80,000 additional that they made and add it back to the money that they made in their first deal. So now they have this 33, this 80,000. So actually they don't have just 80, they have 33 plus 80. So what is that going to come up to? It's going to be about somewhere around $100 and some thousand, right, that they're going to have. So now what happens to their line of credit? Now their line of credit goes from 400,000, it goes up to close to $800,000, right? You see the progress. Now for their third set of properties, now what do? Now they said to the private money lender, hey, Mr. Private money lender, you've been so good to us. We really, really appreciate it. Would you give us one more loan? Now, guess what happens? The lender happens to be from Mastery. They've already done a couple deals. Guys, it's the way you grow in business is by doing the right things when nobody's looking. Meaning, if your deal, let's say it's a little bit late, let's say something happens, right? This is important for an entrepreneur, that it's not when everything is going perfectly. It's who are you when things don't go right? Right? Are you still paying your lender? Are you still doing the hustling behind the scene? And just going, oh, well, oops, I don't know what to do, right? Nobody's going to do business with you like that in the long run, right? And not every deal is going to be absolutely perfect. See, if every deal was perfect, anybody who would start out trying to become a successful entrepreneur, everybody would be successful. It just doesn't work that way, right? So then they go back to the private money lender. Now, look what they're doing, right? And now they did another deal. So this time they're doing now 4 to 5 deals at a time. And so what they did is they did another deal, made about $40,000 to the private money lender. Now they're able to do 3 deals with a commercial loan because now they have an $800,000 line, right? They're going to do 2 flips here. They again do 2 flips, make about $95,000 from 2 flips, right? So about $50,000 per flip. Now, what they did is they did their third property as a rental property. So they did, I should put 2 over here, not 3. So 2 flips and then 1 rental. So now they have 1 rental in the bag. Now, guess what they did again, right? They're repeating the same pattern. Now they go back, they take the profit from here, they take the profit from here, take that extra $150,000. Now, again, they deposit it back in the bank account. Now, guess what their reserve looks like, right? Now they have close to $350,000, $400,000 in reserves, right? Now they show that money, and guess what happens to them again? right? This is the third time they're going back. Now their credit line is relooked at. Now suddenly they have experience, so they become experienced investors, and they're showing $300,000-$400,000 in the bank, right? So now suddenly they are bumped up to a $4 million line, right? So they suddenly go from a $400,000 after about a year or so of doing this. Now, this is not overnight, but I mean, can you imagine? Right? How many people do you know that have a $4 million line starting at zero, right? So now they go up to a close to a $4 million line. Now, guess what they do? Guess what they keep doing? They just keep going back and forth and back and forth, and they start doing more and more and more and more loans, deals. The more deals that they do, the more success rate they can show. The more success rate they can show, the more people that are private money lenders in the market, they're like, hey, do you want to use my money so that you can do more deals? Why? Because see, everybody wants to associate themselves with who? Not somebody who's a loser. They want somebody who's a winner and that has a proven track record. And what they've done time and time and time again is as they kept progressing, each time they've kept doing flips on one side, and then they've kept putting away gradually a few more rental properties, a few more rental properties, a few more rental properties. And today, from a $4 million line, their line has climbed up to close to a it's a $12 million line. Guys, listen, if you want to be a successful real estate entrepreneur, successful real estate investor, understand there's no free lunch, right? I had to work for it, you're going to have to work for it. But for them, within a 3.5-year period, to go from zero, right, definitely to a hero where they don't have today any reason to ever say that, oh my God, I don't have enough money to do deals. Why? Because they took something very small. They kept doing it over and over and over. See, what I see today a lot of the times is a lot of people want to go big, they want to scale, and they want to do it tomorrow. Guys, listen, most people who are successful today, you didn't see their start because success takes a little bit of time. If you grow too fast sometimes and any one thing goes wrong, your house of cards is going to come tumbling down. So it's really important that in their case, what they did is they used a little bit of private money. They partnered up together to be able to, now either of the ladies could have said, well, Miss Nancy could have gone and said, well, I'm not going to partner with Christine. It's not like she has a lot of money. And Miss Christine could have said, why would I share my profits with Miss Nancy? Sure, that's totally fine. See, who are you? Are you the person that says, I'm trapped on an island and I'm not going to cooperate with anybody, right, to catch some fish? But if they're catching some fish while you're basically building a shelter, both people can survive. And not only both people can survive, both people can prosper. The whole goal with real estate is understanding that most of the times, when we all get started, most of us don't have all the tools. We don't have all the resources, right? In life, what is important is not kind of crying over the resources that you don't have. In life, what is important is figuring out how resourceful you're willing to be. And the question is, in their case, they used the two people coming together to be able to eventually get. Today is Freedom Friday. Right? Why I brought up this particular case study? Because it's such a perfect example of two people. One person happens to be literally in their 70s, Miss Christine, right? And then Nancy, somebody who had been a mortgage broker for years and years and years, right? Had specialized in helping and saving the world, meaning helping other people buy investment properties, be able to do the loans for them. But guess what? See, sometimes we're so busy helping everybody else that we forget to help ourselves, right? The whole reason I wanted to bring up this particular case study was this is a simple and easy way, even today, in today's market where the interest rates have jumped up, right? This is a method, that same exact method that Miss Christine used and Miss Nancy used. And it was a simple method. They used private money on the front end to build up a little bit of nest egg. They use that little nest egg to show to a lender, commercial lender, to be able to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger lines. Just because they have a $12 million line today, does that mean they use the whole thing? Of course not, right? They're not going to do 40, 50, 60 deals all at once. That's not what they want to do. They want to do 4 or 5 good, solid deals. But guess what has happened? It's given them more and more and more and more options, and it's helped them build a portfolio of 30 or 40 houses. The question again, guys, is not what are the resources that you have, right? Sometimes when we're getting started or as we're growing, we lack the resources. The question is, how resourceful are you willing to be? Hopefully, as we do these talks every single week, 3 times a week, some of these are helpful. If you're not a part of the Burr Cashflow Investors group on Facebook, become a part, invite your friends, and for you to become a part as well as invite your friends. We just gave away the first set of appliances, a refrigerator, a stove, a microwave, and a dishwasher, brand new, right? Set of appliances to the first winner in the first month that invited a bunch of people, and we're gonna do the second one. The second one is a cruise for 2, a vacation for you and your spouse or significant other, whoever you would like to take. And all you have to do is join the group. It's 100% free to join. And our goal in that is to bring you loads and loads of great content. Next week, we have a special guest that is going to come and speak exclusively within the group for Burr Cashflow Investors, a good friend of mine who used to do close to about 300 or so wholesale deals a year. And today, he's gone from doing just wholesale deals to building a huge cash flow. So tomorrow, we're going to be talking to him, this next coming week, we're going to be talking to him about how did he do that? How did he use those skill sets of finding deals to switching over to building a massive cash flow machine. So having said that, this is Andrew Holmes again. Join the Burr Cashflow Investors group on Facebook. If you have not, it's again Burr Cashflow Investors, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks so much. Have a great day.